I never thought my life would shrink to a single number. $1,000. That's all I needed to keep my landlord from kicking me onto the street. After losing my family, my fiancé, and the last pieces of stability I had, desperation became something I breathed like air. So there I was, sitting under the harsh fluorescent lights of the Denver Medical Research Center, rolling up my sleeve to sell my bone marrow just to survive another month. I told myself it was simple, quick, clinical, no emotions involved. But when Dr. Avery Clark burst back into the room, her face drained of all color, my stomach dropped. "Ma'am, you need to stay calm," she whispered, gripping my chart with shaking hands. "Your DNA triggered a federal alert. According to the system, you're deceased. Date of death, 1999. My heart stopped. "I was born in 2000, I said. That's when the FBI walked in. 6 months ago, I thought my life hurt, but it was nothing compared to what was coming. My name is Madeline Parker Maddie. To the few people who used to care, and at 26, I thought I finally had the kind of life people in my neighborhood never got. I had a tiny but warm apartment, a job as a junior interior design assistant, and a fiancé who kissed my forehead every morning before work. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. Then the universe ripped it away piece by piece. It started with the phone call every daughter fears. A drunk driver, a red light. My mom and my little brother Jacob on their way home from the grocery store. Gone in seconds, the police said, like that was supposed to soften the blow. They told me at least they didn't suffer. As if that made losing the only 2 people who ever loved me unconditionally any less brutal. I unraveled fast. I stopped eating, stopped sleeping, couldn't remember basic tasks at work. Grief hollowed me out so thoroughly I could barely string a sentence together. And after 2 months of watching me disappear into myself, my fiancé Ethan packed his things. He left a note on the counter that read, "I can't carry both of us. I'm sorry." What he really meant was, "You're too broken for me." What I didn't expect was for him to take everything that was still in his name, my savings, the furniture, even the car he promised we would share. Technically legal, morally disgusting. Without the car, I was late to work. Without the savings, I missed rent. Without the will to live, I missed deadlines. My boss pulled me aside gently, but her words carved into me. "Maddie, we don't want to let you go, but you're not here anymore. Not really." And that was that. Jobless, heartbroken, alone, bills piled up faster than I could ignore them. I sold my jewelry, my mother's dishes, half my clothes, anything with a price tag. I moved into a studio barely bigger than a closet in a part of Denver where the police sirens never slept. Some nights I sat in the dark, staring at the shut-off notice taped to my door, feeling like the universe was watching to see how much more I could take before I broke completely. Then, one freezing morning, while I was walking to buy dollar store ramen, I saw it. A worn-out advertisement on a bus stop bench. Bone marrow donors needed. Immediate $1,000 compensation. It's ceiling due him. $1,000. Enough to buy me time. Time to breathe. Time to not be homeless. Time to pretend I could rebuild. I stood there for a long minute, staring at the ad while the wind whipped my hair into my face. Then I pulled out my cracked phone and dialed the number. "Denver Medical Research Center," a cheerful voice answered. "How can I help you today?" I want to donate bone marrow," I said. "Of course. Let's schedule your screening. Are you available tomorrow morning?" I hesitated only 1 second. "Yes, I'll be there." I told myself it was just a transaction. Just another body part traded for survival. Just one more sacrifice I had to make because life kept taking and taking and taking from me. I had no idea that walking into that clinic wouldn't just change my life. It would destroy the life I thought I had, and reveal the one I never knew existed. The next morning, I walked into the Denver Medical Research Center telling myself I wasn't nervous. I was lying. The building smelled like antiseptic and lemon floor cleaner, too clean, too bright, too eager to expose every flaw I'd spent months trying to hide. I checked in at the front desk, my hands trembling as I wrote my name on the form. Madeline Parker. A name that, within an hour, would stop belonging to me. "Miss Parker?" A nurse called me in with the kind of gentle smile people reserve for rescued animals. She guided me into a small white exam room. "Have a seat. Dr. Clark will be with you shortly." I sat on the exam table, pulling my sleeves up to my elbows as if to show the universe I wasn't scared. But I was. My entire life had been spiraling, and this felt like my last attempt to slow the fall. When Dr. Avery Clark entered, she looked exactly like the kind of person whose job depended on calm, neat bun, pressed scrubs, soft voice. "So Maddie," she said, scanning my form. "Any medical conditions? Surgeries? Allergies?" "No. Well, just anxiety. Given everything you've been through, that's normal." Her tone was so kind I almost cried. She took several vials of blood, labeled them, and offered me a polite smile. "Results should take about 40 minutes. You can wait here." I nodded, scrolling my cracked phone to distract myself. Apartment listings, cheap jobs, anything that would keep my mind off the fact that I was selling part of my body to survive. 15 minutes passed. 20. 30. When the door burst open at minute 42, I knew something was wrong before anyone spoke. Dr. Clark stood frozen in the doorway, face pale, eyes full of something I couldn't place: fear? Shock? A mix of both? Behind her were two security guards, hands resting on their belts like they were expecting trouble. "Ma'am, we need you to remain seated," she said, voice trembling. My pulse hammered. "Is something wrong with my blood? Am I sick?" She shook her head slowly. "It's not that, it's something else." She stepped closer, clutching a clipboard to her chest like a shield. "Your DNA?" Triggered a federal alert. I blinked. A what? A federal alert. The sample was automatically checked against CODIS federal databases. "According to the system, you're listed as deceased." I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. "Deceased?" I repeated. "Yes." Her voice cracked. "Date of death, March 12th, 1999. A cold wave shot through me. "Dr. Clark, I was born in 2000. "I know," she whispered. One of the guards stepped closer. "Ma'am, we need you to remain calm." The room started to shrink. My lungs couldn't find air. "This has to be a mistake," I snapped. "I'm alive. I'm right here." Dr. Clark swallowed hard. "The system doesn't make mistakes like this. I've never seen anything like it." I got off the exam table, backing toward the wall. "Call the lab again. Rerun it. I'm not dead." Before she could answer, the door opened behind her. Two people stepped inside, dark suits, badges, that unmistakable, authoritative tension that fills a room before anyone speaks. The woman introduced herself first. "Miss Parker, I'm Special Agent Olivia Brooks." The man followed. "And I'm Special Agent Marcus Hale, FBI." My breath hitched. "For what?" I whispered. "I didn't do anything." Agent Hale lifted a folder. "This isn't about a crime you committed." He opened it, showing me a photo of a newborn baby wrapped in a christening gown. "This is about a crime committed against you." Agent Brooks met my eyes, her expression softer. "Miss Parker, your DNA matches a missing child case from 1999. A baby girl abducted from a wealthy family. If this is accurate." She hesitated, then delivered the words that cracked my life in half. "You're a billionaire family's missing daughter." My knees buckled. "I what? No. My parents are Mark and Linda Parker." Agent Hale shook his head slowly. "Maybe not by blood." And in that moment, I felt it, the first fracture in the identity I'd spent 26 years believing was mine. Agent Marcus Hale didn't blink, didn't breathe, didn't soften. His gaze stayed locked on me like he was studying a crime scene. He slid the photograph across the counter. A tiny newborn, pink cheeks, blue blanket, a silver bracelet around her wrist engraved with RK. Agent Brooks spoke gently. "Her name was Rosalind Kingsley. She disappeared 26 years ago." My stomach lurched. "That's not me," I whispered. "It can't be." But my hands? They shook as I picked up the photo. The baby had my chin, my mouth, my exact eye shape. Agent Brooks tapped the corner of the picture. "Rosalind was taken from a secured nursery at the Kingsley estate, one of the wealthiest families in the country. 0 witnesses, 0 evidence, no ransom. The case went cold." Hale opened a tablet and turned the screen toward me. A DNA analysis glowed bright red across the top. "Match, 99.98%. Confirmed through CODIS and secondary databases." "This is impossible," I whispered. "I'm Maddie Parker. I grew up in Boulder. I went to West Ridge Elementary. I wasn't kidnapped. I wasn't—" Agent Hale cut in. "Miss Parker, your entire identity could have been constructed. Birth certificate, social security number. Medical records, they can be fabricated with enough money and motive. His words were daggers. No, I snapped. My parents are good people. They didn't steal a child. Agent Brooks stepped closer, her voice calm but firm. No one is accusing them, yet. But someone did take you. Someone hid you. Someone erased the original you and rewrote a new one. She hesitated. And someone declared you dead. I have not to matter. The air went icy. That's the part I don't understand, she continued. According to federal records, Rosalind Kingsley died the same day she disappeared. I died? I choked out. On paper, Hale said. But clearly someone wanted the world to believe you were gone. Dr. Clark, who had been silent in the corner, finally spoke. I've practiced medicine 20 years. I've never seen a database flag like this. Whatever happened, it wasn't random. I dropped onto the exam table, knees too weak to hold me. Brooks folded her arms. Miss Parker, the Kingsleys never stopped searching. They hired private investigators, forensic genealogists, even tracked black market adoption rings. Nothing ever surfaced. Hale continued, tone clinical. The case resurfaced today because of you. Your DNA just reopened a 26-year-old federal investigation. I stared down at the newborn photo, my fingers trembling around its edges. But denial pushed through the cracks of my panic. My parents, Mark and Linda, they wouldn't be part of anything illegal. They loved me. Brooks nodded. We know. They're being brought in for questioning, not as suspects. For their safety. I shot up. For their safety? From who? Hale exchanged a look with Brooks before answering. From whoever tried to erase you the first time. Cold washed through me. I backed away. No, stop. I'm not this Rosalind. I'm not Kingsley blood. I'm not a billionaire's daughter. This is insane. Agent Brooks stepped forward and gently placed a hand on my arm. Maddie, look at the bracelet. I lifted the photo again. The silver baby bracelet with tiny engraved initials, R. K. Brooks reached into her jacket and pulled out a clear evidence bag. Inside was an identical bracelet, same design, same pattern, only bigger. The adult version. This was found in a security vault the Kingsleys kept sealed for 26 years, she explained. Your mother, Eleanor Kingsley, had an identical one made for her daughter's 18th birthday. She held it up next to the photo. My throat closed. Hale delivered the final blow. Miss Parker, your fingerprints match partial prints lifted from the original bracelet. And you have the same rare mitochondrial marker found in all female descendants of the Kingsley bloodline. I stared between them, my world bending, cracking, collapsing under the weight of truth. I whispered, dizzy. I need to call my mom. No, Hale said immediately. Absolutely not. From this moment forward, you cannot contact Mark or Linda. Not until we verify who took you and why. My parents will panic, I protested, voice rising. Brooks's expression softened with sympathy. I know. But Maddie, if this is real, they've been living with a secret they didn't know they were part of, Hale added darkly. And whoever erased you once might try again. My heart thudded painfully. I clutched the newborn photo to my chest as if it could anchor me. In less than an hour, I had gone from a broken young woman selling bone marrow to a dead girl walking, to a billionaire's missing daughter. And I could feel it. This nightmare wasn't even close to being over. The federal building felt nothing like the clinic. No antiseptic brightness. No reassuring smiles. Just concrete hallways, humming lights, and a coldness that settled under my skin like frostbite. Agent Hale led the way, heels striking the floor with military precision. Agent Brooks stayed beside me, quieter, watchful. We stopped outside a metal door with a small glass window. Hale spoke without looking at me. They're inside. My stomach twisted. They, I repeated. Who's they? Brooks touched my shoulder gently. Mark and Linda Parker. My breath hitched. My parents? I whispered. Your legal guardians, Hale corrected automatically. I wanted to hit him. Brooks shot him a warning glance, then turned to me. They are not under arrest. We brought them here to protect them and to get answers. I nodded shakily. Can I see them alone? Brooks hesitated. Hale didn't. No. Not until we understand the full scope of what happened 26 years ago. His hand pressed a button and the door clicked open. Inside was a small room with soft yellow lighting clearly meant to look less intimidating, but it failed. A round table sat in the middle, and next to it, my mom, Linda Parker's face was blotchy and red from crying. My dad, Mark, sat beside her, his hands clenched tightly, knuckles white. The moment my mom saw me, she let out a broken sob. Maddie, oh my God, my baby. She stood up too quickly, stumbling. I rushed to her and caught her in my arms. Her tears soaked into my shirt as she clung to me with a desperation that tore something deep inside me. I'm so sorry, she whispered, again and again. I'm so sorry. My dad placed a trembling hand on my back. We should have told you, he said, voice cracking. We should have told you years ago. My heart pounded hard enough to bruise my ribs. I pulled back, searching their faces. Told me what? I whispered. Hale stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. Brooke stayed near the wall, giving us space but listening carefully. My dad breathed out a long, shuddering sigh and reached into his coat pocket. From it he pulled a small, faded cardboard box. It looked old, worn, handled too many times by hands that were afraid to open it. He placed it gently on the table. This is all we've ever had, he said softly. My mom covered her mouth as tears streamed down her cheeks. I opened the lid with shaking fingers. Inside were 3 things. A silver newborn bracelet engraved R.K., a hospital tag with no hospital name, a Polaroid photo of a woman in a dark coat, face half hidden. My dad spoke first, voice trembling. It was December 1999. Linda had just lost another pregnancy. Our third. His voice cracked. My mom reached for his hand. I was sitting in the parking lot, she whispered. Mark had gone inside to get my medication. I was crying. I didn't want to go home to an empty nursery again. Her shoulders shook. And then, she choked. She appeared. Who? I asked, staring at the Polaroid. We never knew her name, my dad said. She looked desperate, pale, nervous. She kept looking over her shoulder. He swallowed hard, the memory visibly painful. She said she needed to hide her niece, he continued. Said the baby's parents died in a car crash, that the child was in danger, that she couldn't keep her. My mom sobbed harder. She placed you in my arms, she whispered. You were so tiny, wrapped in a blue blanket. I knew instantly. I loved you. My dad continued. She gave us documents, a birth certificate, medical records. Everything looked legitimate. Then she offered us $30,000 to take the child and never ask questions. Agent Hale cut in, voice suddenly sharp. That woman, did she have any distinguishing marks? My dad closed his eyes. Yes. She had a scar on her left hand. A crescent-shaped scar near the thumb. Like a moon. Agent Brooks sucked in a breath. Hale froze. I didn't understand. What does that mean? I demanded. Brooks stepped forward. Maddie, that describes Margaret Kingsley, your mother's sister. Your biological aunt. My mom gasped. My dad stared at the agents in horror. No, we didn't know. We didn't steal a child. We didn't. I know, Brooks said quickly. We believe you. My throat burned with 1,000 tangled emotions. I turned back to my parents. My real parents. The ones who raised me, held me, comforted me, loved me. You took me, I whispered. Because a stranger told you to. My mom fell to her knees. We thought we were saving you, she cried. We didn't buy you. We didn't steal you. We just. Her voice broke into pieces. We just wanted a child to love. And you were a miracle to us. Our miracle. My heart cracked open. Not in anger. Not in betrayal. In grief. Because I could see the truth in their eyes. They didn't kidnap me. They didn't manipulate me. They didn't hide me out of guilt. They hid me out of love. Agent Hale broke the silence. Mark, Linda, whether you knew it or not, your daughter is Rosalind Kingsley, heir to the Kingsley Empire. The words hung in the air like a funeral bell. I wasn't just losing my identity. I was losing the parents who gave me one. Agent Brooks led me down another hallway, long, quiet, the kind where every step felt like a countdown. I held the box my parents gave me against my chest, gripping it so hard my knuckles whitened. Inside it was every lie I'd ever lived, and maybe every truth I'd been denied. We're heading into the family conference room, Brooks said gently. Someone's asked to meet you. Who? I whispered. She didn't answer. Instead, she opened a door. The room inside was spacious, polished, filled with soft light instead of interrogation lamps. A vase of white lilies sat on the table, elegant, delicate, out of place in a federal building, and standing beside the window was a woman, tall, gracefully composed, dressed in a navy business suit that probably cost more than my old apartment lease. Her dark hair fell in soft waves, but what stunned me were her eyes blue-gray, identical to mine. She froze when she saw me. Then her hand flew to her mouth, trembling. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Rosie?" I flinched. "My name is Maddie," I said automatically, grasping onto the only identity I had left. The woman closed her eyes, as if the name caused her physical pain. "I'm sorry," she breathed. It's been 26 years. Agent Brooks stepped forward. "Maddie, this is Victoria Kingsley. She's your biological older sister." Victoria's voice cracked. "I was 3 when you disappeared. Had a visions. Can I didn't be due." My heartbeat staggered. 3. A toddler. Old enough to form memories. Old enough to lose a sister. Victoria approached slowly, as though she feared I might vanish if she moved too fast. "I used to sneak into your nursery," she whispered. "Mom said I liked to watch you breathe. I'd sit on the floor and sing to you even though I didn't know any real songs." Her voice hitched. "When you were taken, I thought it was my fault. I opened my mouth but no sound came out." She wiped at her eyes, breath shuddering. "That night, I begged Mom to let me sleep in her room. I didn't want to stay in mine because of a thunderstorm. If I'd stayed, maybe I would have heard something. A sound, a door, a stranger. Anything. Maybe I could have Her voice cracked completely. I stepped toward her. "You were 3, I said softly. "You were a baby." She let out a broken laugh. "You sound like Mom." Mom? A mother I'd never known. A mother dead 5 years. Victoria must have seen something shift in my expression, because she opened her bag and took out a small velvet box. "This was hers," she whispered, placing it in my hand. Inside was a delicate silver locket. On the front was an engraving. "R.K. My Rosie." My breath caught. Victoria reached out tentatively. "She wore it every day until she died," she said, tears slipping down her cheeks. "She never gave up hope. Not for a single second." I traced the initials with my thumb. The cool metal burned against my skin. "Your mother, Eleanor, she was the heart of our family," Victoria continued, voice trembling. "When you vanished, she stopped hosting charity galas. Stopped painting. Stopped laughing. She spent the rest of her life searching for you." I swallowed, throat tight. "What about my father?" I asked. Victoria's face darkened. "He's alive," she said, "and he's desperate to meet you. But before that," her jaw tensed, grief flickering in her eyes, "you need to know the truth about why you were taken." My pulse quickened. Victoria sat down, composing herself. "When you were born, everything was chaotic. My father, Jonathan Kingsley, was CEO of Kingsley Dynamics. At the time, he had business partners involved in overseas financing. One of those partners got entangled in criminal operations, things my father didn't know about." She met my eyes. "And when Dad tried to cut ties, they threatened us." A cold shudder ran through me. "They planned to kidnap you," she said, voice shaking. "Use you as leverage. And then, kill you afterward." My stomach twisted. "Why?" I whispered. "To send a message," she said quietly. "To ruin him." My vision blurred. "And me?" I asked. "Who took me first?" Victoria inhaled sharply and held up the Polaroid I'd brought. "This woman," she said, tapping the face. "Her name was Margaret Kingsley. Our aunt. Our mother's younger sister." The name felt like static in my ears. "She found out about the kidnapping plot," Victoria continued. "She didn't trust the police. Didn't trust security. She panicked. She grabbed you, ran, found a couple she thought would protect you, and gave them everything she had." My legs trembled. "Then what happened?" I asked. Victoria's voice broke. "They found her body 2 years later in a motel in Montana. They called it suicide. But we always knew. She died protecting you." Silence swallowed the room. I clutched the locket so tightly the metal left marks in my palm. Victoria stepped closer, tears streaming openly now. "You were loved, Maddie," she whispered. "So deeply. By all of us. By the aunt who died to save you, by the mother who never stopped grieving, by the father who never forgave himself for failing you." Her fingers hovered near mine, trembling. "And now, You're here, alive. After 26 years. She sobbed softly. You came home. I felt something inside me break and bloom all at once. Pain, grief, and the quiet, dangerous hope that maybe, just maybe, my life had never been as empty as I thought. But I also felt something else. Fear. Because if this was all true, then the man behind all of it, the one whose decisions destroyed my life before it even began, was a billionaire. And he was waiting to meet me. Agent Hale knocked once on the large glass door at the end of the hall. Behind it, I could already see the silhouette of a man seated in a high-backed leather chair, broad shoulders, expensive suit, perfect posture, the kind of presence that didn't have to move to dominate the room. My biological father, Jonathan Kingsley, the billionaire whose decisions got my aunt killed, the man who failed to protect an infant me from monsters he'd invited into his own world. Agent Brooks whispered to me, "You don't have to go in if you're not ready." But I was ready, not because I was calm, not because I wasn't terrified, but because I deserved answers. "Open it," I said. The door slid quietly. The room was sleek, elegant mahogany table, floor-to-ceiling windows, a skyline of Denver painted gold by the afternoon sun. Jonathan Kingsley turned in his chair. His hair was streaked with silver, his jaw sharp, his eyes, my eyes, blue-gray, cold and old, filled with something I didn't want to name. He stood slowly, as if afraid I'd shatter if he moved too fast. "Rosalind," he breathed. That name. I stiffened instantly. "Don't call me that." The word Rosalind felt foreign in my mouth, like trying on a coat someone else bought for me. His face crumpled with hurt. "I'm sorry. I forget you wouldn't want to be called by the name of a girl who died because of your decisions?" I snapped. Agent Hale stepped back, letting the tension fill the room unfiltered. Jonathan swallowed, his voice deep but unsteady. "I've dreamed of this moment for 26 years. Funny," I said bitterly. "I didn't even know you existed until 2 hours ago." He flinched. "Good. For once, someone else felt the impact instead of me. I understand if you're angry." "Angry?" I laughed, a sharp sound. "I'm beyond angry. I'm displaced, disoriented, torn between two families, two names, and all because you made deals with criminals?" His jaw tightened. "Let me explain." "No." I stepped forward, heart pounding. "Explain this instead. My aunt, your sister-in-law, died because she saved me. My parents, the Parkers, raised me with love while your world made them accessories in something they never understood. My life, my entire identity was rewritten because you brought danger into your home. Anyway," his eyes glossed with grief. "You don't know what it was like back then," he said quietly. "Then tell me," I demanded. "Tell me why you didn't protect your own daughter." He inhaled deeply, voice shaking for the first time. "I tried. That's not good enough." He looked away toward the window, toward the city he probably owned pieces of. "I was arrogant, successful too young. I believed I could control my business partners. They were men with vast networks, financial criminals with political ties. When I refused to sign off on one of their laundering contracts, they warned me, subtly at first, then openly." He swallowed hard. "One night, a note was delivered to our home. It said, 'Every king loses his crown through his children.' Ice shot through me," he continued. "We tightened security, hired new guards, begged the FBI for help, but without evidence they couldn't do much. And then, they came for you." My breath trembled. "You blamed yourself so much you let the world think I was dead?" I fired back. His voice broke. "When they declared you deceased, I wanted to die too." Silence slammed between us. A silence thick with 26 years of pain neither of us chose. I stepped closer, so close I could see the tiny wrinkles around his eyes, the ones grief had carved. "You let her take me," I whispered. "Aunt Margaret, you let her walk out with me alone." Jonathan squeezed his eyes shut. "She came to us panicking. Said she'd overheard a conversation that they planned to take you within 24 hours. She insisted she could hide you, that the safest place was outside the Kingsley name. And that wasn't too padded, and you believed her?" "She was terrified," he said. "And she loved you. I thought she would bring you back. But she never did," I said softly. "Because she died protecting me." His voice broke open like something raw. "When they found her body, I knew it wasn't suicide. But the case never moved. Too much corruption, too many enemies. I lived, I said bitterly. But she didn't. Jonathan's eyes filled, and for the first time I saw not a billionaire titan but a broken man. Maddie, he said, using my chosen name. What Margaret did was an act of love. What the Parkers did was love. And what I did, what I failed to do, was something I've regretted every day since. I felt myself trembling. He reached into his coat and pulled out a thin folder. Inside were newspaper clippings, private investigator reports, and dozens, hundreds of photos of me at different ages. 5, 7, 14, 20. Pictures taken from afar. Your mom Eleanor never gave up, he whispered. We searched the world. Every case of unclaimed children, every adoption ring, every rumor. He placed the folder into my shaking hands. You were never forgotten. The room spun around me. My voice barely escaped my lips. You watched me grow up, he nodded. I couldn't get close without putting you in danger. But I made sure you were safe. Every school you attended had additional security placed anonymously. Every address you lived at was under discreet watch. We protected you without exposing you. My breath caught. You were there? He looked at me with tears he didn't hide. I've never stopped being your father. I get never watching. I staggered back, the weight of everything bending my knees. Anger, love, confusion. 26 years of lost time slamming into me at once. Why now? I whispered through tears. Why now, after all this time? Because you came back to us, he said, voice cracking. Because your DNA finally surfaced. Because the world that tried to destroy us is gone. And because... He stepped toward me, slow, careful, fatherly. Because I will never fail you again. My throat closed. My whole body shook. And then, my legs gave out. He reached me before I hit the floor. For the first time since I walked into that clinic, I let myself sob in someone's arms. Not because I forgave him. Not because the past didn't matter. But because for the first time, I understood that I had been loved, long before I knew I was lost. And the war between the life I'd lived and the life I'd been stolen from, I was only just beginning. The conference room fell away from me the moment Jonathan let me go. Agent Brooks guided me out into a quiet hallway dimly lit, lined with framed photos of federal officials who had no idea my world had just been split into two irreconcilable halves. We can take a break, she said softly. But break meant nothing when your identity had just been peeled open like a wound. I leaned against the wall, pressing my palms against my eyes until stars flickered behind them. Two families, two truths, two versions of me. The one I lived, and the one that was stolen. Footsteps echoed. Maddie? A trembling voice called. I lifted my head. Victoria stood there, my sister by blood, a stranger by life, wringing her hands like she was afraid I'd vanish again. Are you okay? She asked. I laughed through the exhaustion. Define okay. She stepped closer, hesitating. I know this is all too much. If I were in your place, I'd be terrified, angry, lost, I said. Yes, she whispered. All of that. Silence wrapped around us. Not uncomfortable, just heavy. Weighted with 26 years of absence neither of us chose. Finally, I asked the question that had been clawing at the back of my mind since the moment FBI said missing heiress. What happens now? Victoria exhaled shakily. Whatever you want. Truly. Dad wants you home. The board wants to meet you. Our lawyers want to... Stop, I said, holding up a hand. I'm not ready for any of that. She nodded, eyes soft. Of course. I don't want to lose you again. Her voice broke, and that did something to me. Something small but real. Like a stitch pulling two torn fabrics closer. Before I could answer, the door behind me opened again. Mark and Linda, my parents, stood there, pale from hours of crying, fear etched deep into their faces. Maddie, Mom whispered. We didn't want to interrupt, but we needed to know if you're okay. Two worlds collided in that hallway. My parents, who held me through nightmares, scraped knees, heartbreak, and my sister, who lost me before she could form memories of my face. My heart cracked open. Come here, I said to the Parkers. My mom threw her arms around me, half sobbing, half laughing in relief. My dad's voice was barely audible. You'll always be our little girl. We'll step back if you want. We'll let you go if this is where you belong. Crack at it. He tried to sound brave, but his voice wavered. I grabbed his hands. No, I said. I'm not choosing between you. They both froze. And Victoria stepped forward slowly, almost trembling. You don't have to choose, Maddie, she whispered. We can share you, if you'll let us. The enormity of that moment of all three of them looking at me with fear, hope, love, crushed me. I wiped my tears and stood straighter. My name is Madeline Parker, I began. Then I placed a hand on the locket tucked inside my shirt. And I am also Rosalind Kingsley. Brooks smiled softly, a rare expression even Hale couldn't suppress a reaction to. I'm both, I continued. I belong to both families. I was shaped by loss, but I was saved by love. I won't abandon either. My mother sobbed harder. Victoria covered her mouth. My father, Mark, bowed his head as if relieved from a burden he'd carried for decades. And I made a vow. To them, and to myself. I'm done running from the truth. I'm done letting the past define me. From now on, I decide who I am. 2 families, 2 histories. 1 future, mine. And for the first time, the path ahead didn't feel terrifying. It felt possible. 3 weeks later, I stood on the steps of Kingsley Dynamics headquarters, a skyscraper of glass and steel rising above Denver, like a monument to power I was never supposed to inherit. But this time, I didn't feel like an intruder. I felt chosen, not because of money, not because of blood, but because for the first time in 26 years I was building my life on truth, not fear. Inside the lobby, marble floors stretched endlessly. Employees whispered as I walked past, some curious, some shocked, some emotional. The long-lost heiress story had leaked to the media, though the FBI kept details sealed. Enough rumor spread to make me a ghost resurrected. Victoria waited at the elevator. You ready? She asked, offering a small smile. I took a breath. I think so. She squeezed my hand. Whatever happens, you're not alone. She meant it. Over the last 3 weeks, she'd helped me navigate everything: legal counsel, extended family, the overwhelming tsunami of attention. She was patient when I panicked, gentle when I cried, fierce when someone questioned my place. She became my sister in every way that mattered. But I didn't stay with the Kingsleys full time. Every Friday afternoon, I packed an overnight bag and drove to Boulder. Mark grilled burgers on the porch. Linda hugged me like she feared I'd vanish again. We watched reruns, cooked together, laughed together. They didn't lose me. And I didn't lose them. I gained more. At Kingsley HQ, Victoria led me into a sunlit conference room where Jonathan was waiting. He looked healthier, lighter, like a man who'd finally been handed the piece of his soul he'd mourned for decades. Maddie, he said warmly, thank you for coming. I sat across from him. 3 weeks ago, I could barely look at him without shaking. Now, I could breathe. I'm ready, I said. He nodded, sliding a document folder toward me. We'd like you to join the Kingsley Foundation, he said, as co-director. You'll lead our new program focused on missing children and families rebuilding after trauma. Your insight, your story, can change lives. For a moment, the world stilled. Me, the girl who sold bone marrow to survive. The girl who thought she had nothing left to give. Now being asked to help others like me, I felt tears burn my eyes. I want this, I said. I really want this. Jonathan's voice softened. And Maddie, whatever name you choose, whatever path you take, you are my daughter. I'll spend the rest of my life earning that privilege. For the first time, I believed him. We signed the papers together. Later, I walked into my new office, glass walls, a desk overlooking the city, and placed something important right at the center, my eviction notice, framed, preserved, a reminder of who I was, and who I fought to become. Around lunchtime, my phone buzzed. Denver Medical Research Center. Miss Parker, are you still interested in being a bone marrow donor? I stared at the message, then smiled. I typed back, yes. It saved my life once. Maybe it can save someone else's. Standing in that office, sunlight spilling across the room, I touched the locket around my neck, R.K., and whispered to myself, I am Maddie Parker. I am Rosalind Kingsley. I survived. And I choose my future. 2 names, 2 families, 1 woman reborn from the ashes of a stolen past. And for the first time in my entire life, I felt whole.